Okay, my firsties, it's time to read Leroy Ninker Saddles Up. I'm going to read beginning in chapter 1, and I'll try to do my voices like I do in my classroom as best I can for you, because I know you guys love it when I read that way. So, here we go, chapter 1. Leroy Ninker worked at the Bayou Drive-In Theater concession stand. It was Leroy's job to pour drinks and butter popcorn and smile a very large smile. At the concession stand, Leroy Ninker said, "Thank you very much." He said, "Extra butter on that?" He also said, "Yippee-i-yo." Leroy Ninker said yippee-i-yo because Leroy Ninker had a dream. He wanted to be a cowboy. On Wednesday nights, the Bayou Drive-In Theater ran a Western double feature, and Leroy Ninker stood and watched in wonder as the great white expanse of the bayou screen filled with purple mountains, wide open plains, and cowboys. The cowboys wore 10-gallon hats. They wore boots. They carried lassos. The cowboys were men who cast long shadows and knew how to fight injustice. They were the men who were never, ever afraid. "Yippee-i-yo," whispered Leroy to the screen. "This is the life for me, a cowboy who is meant to be." "Who are you whispering to?" said Beatrice Leoponi. Beatrice was the ticket seller at the Bayou Drive-In Theater. Once all the tickets were sold and the movie had begun, Beatrice joined Leroy Ninker in the concession stand so that she could eat popcorn and watch the movie. "I'm not whispering," said Leroy Ninker very loudly. "Cowboys do not whisper." "Can I make a point?" said Beatrice Leoponi. "Can I make a simple observation?" "Yes," said Leroy. "All these cowboys," said Beatrice. "What do they got?" "Hats," said Leroy Ninker as he stared at the screen, "and also boots." "Yep," said Beatrice. "What else?" "Lassos," said Leroy. He put his hand on his lasso. "And," said Beatrice. "Tracking abilities," said Leroy. Beatrice heaved a heavy sigh. "I'm thinking of something that you can actually see, something right in front of you." She paused. "Something that cowboys are sitting on." Leroy Ninker took off his hat and he scratched his head. Beatrice sighed again. "Horses, Leroy," she said. "Every cowboy needs a horse." Leroy Ninker was a small man with a big dream. He was also the kind of man who knew the truth when he heard it. Suddenly, his hat and his lasso and his boots and his yippee-i-yos just didn't feel like it was enough. Beatrice Leoponi was right. How could he ever hope to be a cowboy, a real cowboy, a true cowboy, without a horse? "Yep," said Beatrice, "you've got a problem. You've got to procure a horse. But don't you worry, I happen to have the solution for you right here." She held up a copy of the Gisford Gazette. "Listen," she said. Beatrice adjusted her glasses. She cleared her throat. "Horse for sale." Beatrice Leoponi read, "Old, but very good, very exceptionally cheap." "Yippee-i-yo," said Leroy Ninker. He took out his wallet and counted his money. He looked at Beatrice Leoponi and he said, "How much is very exceptionally cheap?" "I guess you don't know until you ask," said Beatrice. "Right," said Leroy. He counted his money again. "I hope I have enough." "Listen," said Beatrice. "What you have to do here is take fate in your hands and wrestle it to the ground." "Right," said Leroy. "I'm going to wrestle fate. I'm going to get a horse." "There you go," said Beatrice. She tore the ad out of the paper and handed it to Leroy. "Yippee-i-yo," said Leroy. He carefully folded the piece of paper and put it in his wallet. "Don't forget to inspect the teeth," said Beatrice Leoponi, "and the hoofs. That is what matters with horses. Teeth and hooves. Teeth and hooves, said Leroy Ninker. Exactly, said Beatrice. That night, Leroy Ninker did not sleep well. He dreamed of horses. Specifically, he dreamed of teeth and hooves. Also, he dreamed of Beatrice Leoponi. In his dream, she kept clearing her throat and saying, "Take fate in your hands! Take fate in your hands! Take fate in your hands!" "And then what?" said Leroy Ninker in the dream. "And then," said Beatrice in a very solemn voice, "you must wrestle it to the ground." That is the end of chapter 1. What do you guys think wrestle it to the ground means and take fate by your hands? What does that mean, you guys? Think about that, and we'll talk about it a little bit on my next video. But be thinking about what do you think Leroy's going to do with that ad? Is he going to go and see if he has enough money for that horse? Is he going to buy a horse? What do you guys think? Let me know in your comments.